Hi there, and welcome once again to another episode of MAPIT. This is Make It Plain with Tracy, and we're here to really make it plain and map out our strategies to where we want to be, of course, starting from this point where we are. So, welcome aboard, and then we're going to go straight into our conversation today. We're looking at growth, but very specially, growth from a different perspective, and it's really very important. I want you to stay tuned, don't go away. Let's do this together because there's so much to share, there's so much to learn today, and growth is a phenomenon that I recommend we all embrace. Let's not even think about it, let's embrace it. Okay, irrespective of the level you are, how far you've gone, but trust me, there's room for improvement, there's room for learning, there's room for transformation, there's room for total change. And these are all words or concepts that actually speak more about growth, what growth really is. And yeah, let's delve right in. So I would like to do lots of readings today, lots of references, and like real-time research as we converse, as we discuss. I'll be sharing some things I found out. Okay, so growth from a perspective of value. That's where we're going today. Growth from a perspective of value. So when you think of growth, you think of value. You ask yourself how valuable I am. We talked about growth. Was the last week or so? You can look it up in my YouTube channel, Tracy Giami. Always like, subscribe, and share. Tell people what's happening. Good news, learning platform. Okay, life transforming concepts and principles that we're really talking about here on MAPIT. So yes, we looked at growth as, of course, personal growth as a type of growth, business growth. We looked at physical growth. We looked at kids, for example, and so. But so I just need you to look at where you are in your journey to your success, to your greatness, and then do your personal assessment. I'm going to read something I found online in terms of growth. It says growth, when considered from a value adding perspective, emphasizes increasing the worth. Mark that. Increasing worth or the benefit of something. So whether it's a product, it's a service, or an entire business, I see me as a product of course, God's creation. So life is a business, and then we look at growth in life. Okay, growth in life as a business strategy. Okay, and so it's important really to just mark the word worth. When you talk about growth, then there's value, and of course there's worth. So we'll move on. It says that it's about creating something new or enhancing what already exists. That's another beautiful, direction. So something new, fresh from the start. You get a land, for example, you till, you get, equipment to clear the land, and you plan to build. You build a fresh foundation. You have a model, a picture of what building, okay, or prospect you have, and then you begin to build from the scratch. That's some sort of growth. It also says, it also speaks about enhancing what's on the ground. You already have a structure, you have system, you're somewhere in your journey, but then it's time to, enhance, to, make it more appreciable. So you can imagine, of course, still in the context of buildings, you have an old house somewhere and you're like, come on, it's time to redesign this. It's time to change something or two about that house. And then you begin to see people making renovations here and there. But so this all speaks about value. It's about enhancing where you were to something better, something new. Okay, and so that's growth again. So I'll move on to, it struck me really. I was just going through a few scriptures, and it just occurred to me, and I also realized that really God is the first businessman. We're talking about business, the business of life, and that's where the concept of growth comes in. Remember, the business of you and the things you invest in. You want to monitor and ensure that there's also growth. You're not stagnant. That's the point, right? I'll share a few things with you, and I'd like to get your feedback, okay, and see if you'll be as shocked as I was, but then I was able to figure it out. So this is my book, Breaking the Bricks and Shackles of Limitations and it ends with a question. It says, why can't I? So why can't I break my limitations? Why can't I break my prototypes and my stereotypes? Why can't I shift from where I am, what I currently know, to begin to do things differently? Like thinking outside the box. Someone was saying the other day, we're talking about thinking outside the box, doing things differently. So why is there even a box in the first place? I laughed about it, but really food for thought. Why was there ever a box? Who drew that box and found us, in that box to make us think in a certain way and all of that. So yeah, back to my book, Breaking the Bricks and Shackles of Limitations. Why can't I? So please reach out to me to grab a copy of this book, because I'll be reading and sharing some wealth of knowledge from my book. Okay, thank you. All right. Free marketing, yeah, but it's fine. So I'll talk about something on page 24 of my book. 24 is under chapter 2, and chapter 2 talks about the epilepsy of low self-esteem. So I went on to share a few things, and at some point, I was able to express something I found. A section talks about increase, appreciation, and advancement. That just is a subtitle, okay, section of the book. It says the place of growth is the place of increase, is a place of appreciation, is a place of advancement. It's really very important. If there's no increase, there's no appreciation, there's no advancement, and that's not growth. Growth is not present. Okay. So I'll look at Genesis 1:28, a bit of the scripture where God, after, okay, say, and God blessed them and said to them, I think he says, be fruitful and increase in number, fill the earth, subdue it, rule over the fish. Is the creation story in Genesis. But it's important that, okay, when God blesses creation, man, he says, be fruitful, be fruitful. You know what fruitfulness signifies, right? And he says, increase in number, productivity, value. He says, fill the earth. You know what it takes to fill the earth? Expand, expound. So when you see great establishments beginning to have multiple, like, I don't want to mention names really, but have multiple, will I say, branches, parastatals, and all, that's increase in all capacity. So it's something biblical, it's something God even commanded man to do. He said multiply, multiply, increase. So please think outside the box, embrace what we're sharing today, and have a mindset to multiply, to increase, and to add value. So based on all of this, I was able to say to myself that, really, God, I think, was the first businessman ever. This is on page 23. Because God, in Genesis 1:31, he says that after he saw all that he had made, he said it was good. He nodded his head. He said, wow. So he kind of appreciated his work. Creation story, day one, day two, day three. And after every creation, after every production, he appreciated his product and he was happy, he was excited, and he said it was good. So, what's it pointing to? It points to the fact that God believed in his creation, he valued and he rated his works of creation, including man, and of course, he gave a great ranking. So, how do you rank yourself? How do you see yourself? I'm going to fast forward so we don't dwell so much. I mean, if you're interested in more details, just grab a copy of my book, reach me out, chat me up, okay, and pick up from page 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, up to 28. But then before I go, I would like to share another interesting perspective of growth, being synonymous with value or value adding initiatives. So think about the big boys, the big girls, the big names, around, call it, what's it called? Maybe the movie industry, in the music industry, and stuff like that. So I have on page 25, it talks about self worth versus net worth. So I say the world rates successful people today in terms of net worth. So we all look up the figures and happily classify top 10, top 50, top, like world richest in Africa, whatever award categories. But so yes, there's always that consciousness to say, have you heard about Davido? Do you know his net worth and the like? So I just want to know, when we brag about our fans or people we follow, people we're fans to, and we talk about self worth, net worth, and all that. It's all about value. It's all about value. And then, these people we check out, if you check it out, rewind back to when they started and where they are now, point zero to point whatever they are now, you would see that they have grown. And that's all I'm trying to say. They've grown gradually. Of course, there were hurdles along the way, but I'm sure they found ways to hit, those challenges. So I'll stop here today, but please remember there's so much in this book, breaking those breaks, those shackles of limitations in our thoughts, in our behaviors, in our ideologies as well. So please, enough of this. But yeah, reach out to me, grab a copy, page 23 all to 25, 28 thereabouts. There's so much. God was the first businessman ever. He believes in his creation, and he even gave the mandate to say, go ahead, multiply, fill the earth. So what's stopping you? What's stopping you? And if there's anything stopping you, really, you have a few days to think, reflect, and I'll catch you next week. So till then, stay tuned, stay connected. I love you, Tracy.